Good morning and welcome to episode 124 of the Mouses Makes Knitting podcast. Every time I have to check, I check it before I press the button and I still have to check when I say it to you. My name is Mandy, sometimes known as Mouse. Miss Poppy was in that basket, but she heard Ewan in the kitchen, so she's taken herself off. Anyway. I'm very tired. Sunday. Today is Tuesday. Sunday, Dave and Ewan were going to a little museum in Taunton. It's very dark, I'm sorry. I have got the lamp on. I just caught it in my glasses there. It's a little tiny classic car museum that's in one of the old shops. And I said, well, I'll come along and have a wander around the shops. So off I went with my granny walker thing, and I walked about 2 kilometres, which is further than I've walked for the last 4 years. And I did really, really well. I've been working on my hip flexors and my hip stability muscles and all of that. I did really, really well. I was tired, did very well. And then I did what I always do. Because I'd done well, yesterday I went, let's go out again. And we only went to Home Bargains and Lidl's, but it was too much. I had to leave Lidl's and go back and sit in the car, and I barely made it to the car. Because all those muscles that I'd worked the day before were now going, we'd like a little rest now, please. And my back went into spasm, and it was just all a bit... So we got home. And Dave said, you need to go and have a nap, don't you? I was like, no, I'll be fine. And my body does this thing when it wants me to rest, where it doesn't matter what I'm doing, it puts me to sleep. And in the end, I had to go and get into bed. I was so cold, which is another thing it does to make me get into bed. My temperature just drops. And got into bed for a couple of hours. Dave woke me up for dinner, and I didn't think I'd sleep last night. I've just seen my mother-in-law used to call them Christmas decorations. You know when you get like a little cobweb? Because I've put the blind up and it's not been up for months. There's just like a little dust string behind it. Sorry. I told you I was tired. Tangents are far worse when I'm tired. Anyway, I went to bed early, out like a light, despite the fact I thought I wouldn't sleep. And so I'm up and full of beans this morning. Not really. First thing I'm going to show you is my earrings. Do you see my earrings? Let me come closer. They're from Denise at Mouses Makes. No, I'm Mouses Makes. Denise at Dear Designs. It's going to be a rough ride today, people. I will link her Ko-fi shop below. She also has an Etsy shop. But the fees are less for her on Ko-fi, so I'll link her Ko-fi shop. I love them. I feel like Yana. Do you watch Finished Knitting Stories with Yana? She always has fabulous earrings. She's got some foxy wooden ones. I watched her this morning actually while I was doing my morning knit, and she was wearing some little crocheted squares, granny squares that someone had sent her. Absolutely fabulous. I must up my earring game. I'm also wearing this sweater. This is Anasha by Jennifer Steingars, and I'd forgotten I'd got it. I found it when I was looking for something else. I knit it 2021, I think. No, it might have been 22. It was a little while ago. And do you see why? I've gone off round yokes and I've gone back to raglan sleeves. I get this bit of fabric. I watched a video the other day. What's the lady called? Nerdy Knitting? Nerdy Knits? Something like that, anyway. And she was saying that what you need to do, and I do know this, but I needed reminding, is knit this bit of the sweater according to your upper bust measurements rather than your full bust measurement, because obviously my bust is quite full and I have quite a small frame, so my shoulders are not in, what's the word, they don't go together. None of me goes together really. I've got quite small shoulders, I think, because I've got quite a small frame apart from my hips. I've got small shoulders, small ribs, and then everything else is large. So yeah, I get this bagging, which I don't like. It doesn't look good and it annoys me. So I will try, there's a Christmas sweater. Well, it's not a Christmas sweater. I want to make it as a Christmas sweater. It's another Jennifer Steingast pattern and I'm trying to think what it's called. Evergreen? No. I've got it here. Do you remember my not very short list from ages ago? This is this year's not very short list. It's not a bit short. Let me look. Oh no, it's not in there. No. Oh, I can't remember what it's called. If I get round to it, you'll see it. But anyway, if I knit that, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a smaller measurement for the yoke. And then there are various options. You can put in short rows to accommodate your bust. Oh, there's lots of different things you can do. That's what I think I'm going to do anyway, is put in short rows for my bust. And then maybe like A-line shaping for my hips. My hips do go like that. That's not an exaggeration. I'm blessed with childbearing hips. I've completely lost where I was going with the beginning of that conversation. I told you it was going to be bad today, didn't I? Anyway, I knit this, whenever it was, in some yarn that I can't remember the name of. Dave got it for me from Facebook Marketplace. I think it was Sirdar, but they don't make it anymore. It was I looked on my notes and I haven't written it down. I don't know if I put it in Ravelry. Probably not. I used to be really bad at filling in. But anyway, it's quite nice yarn. Can you see it's sort of multicoloured? The only problem with it is the pilling. Look. I think I've worn it twice. I'm fairly certain it's a wool acrylic blend and it just pills. I mean, I've got black trousers on and they're covered in fibres. The contrast colour was just some, oh, this was meant to be a DK, that's right. But I knit a 4-ply pattern, a fingering weight pattern with it. And this contrast colour is Stylecraft Special 4-ply, just in a creamy colour that I had lurking about. So it knit to a 4-ply gauge. Gosh, I wish I could remember what it was called. If I can find out, I'll put it on the screen. I keep wanting to say Drifter, and it wasn't Drifter, because that's a cotton blend, isn't it? Click. No. Maybe? Might have been Sirdar Click. I'm almost certain it was Sirdar Click. Anyway, they don't make it anymore. Not that you want it anyway, because look how it pills. Right, where are we? Nearly 10 minutes in, and just a load of nonsense so far. Okay, let me remind you about the Topping Out Mal. Topping Out Mal is its correct title. I'm trying to get it right for you. A prize was drawn at the end of January from the chatter thread. That prize has been claimed. There will be another prize at the end of February, again from the chatter thread. We're not drawing from the finished object thread until the very end. So it's pattern prizes each month, and then at the very end there'll be physical prizes. That's on Mouse's Makes page on Ravelry. All the details are below here. There's a link to Belinda's Baubles. Really, it's Belinda's baby. I'm kind of helping her out because she's not done a mail before, and I'm doing the Ravelry bit for her. You need to watch Belinda's podcast for prizes. I think that was all I needed to say about that, but who knows? You can see how it's going today, can't you? I'm trying to hydrate. My hope being that if I stay hydrated, it might help. I have a finished object. But it's a finished object that had a bit of a sting in the tail. I'll tell you why in a minute. I finished Dave's socks. They are just vanilla, my own sort of sock recipe. I still haven't found my little notebook. I keep looking over there. I'm sure it's in one of those drawers, but do you think I can find it? I haven't found my little sock notebook. No, it's a notebook that I keep my sock recipes in, and in it I've got all the measurements for all the families and my friends that I knit for, all their sock measurements, number of stitches, number of centimetres. I knit my socks in centimetres rather than rows. I know a lot of people use rows, but because I use different styles of needles, so I use DPNs, magic loop, 9-inch circulars, my gauge does differ a tiny bit. And also if I use different yarns, I find some knits up slightly differently to others. And if you're in pattern, it knits up differently to others, to vanilla. Anyway, I had it all in this little notebook, and I did that fatal thing, I tidied up. Why do we do it? But whilst looking for my notebook, I found this. This very elegant representation of my husband's foot. Unfortunately, on here I had written, this was when I first started knitting socks, that if I wanted, I was doing toe up at the time, if I wanted to put a Flegel heel on, I needed 19.5 centimetres, and for an afterthought heel I needed 22 centimetres. So I was able to use this. I'd knit these cuff down, so I measured from there to there, took 2 inches off for the toe. So I'm mixing, aren't I? I'm sorry, I do this all the time. It's because of my age. I was brought up with both centimetres and sort of metric and imperial measurements, and I swap about between the two. Sometimes, as with these socks, in the same thing. Right, I took off 5 centimetres for the toe, so I knew that from where I'd put the markers for my afterthought heel, I needed 17 centimetres. Then I began the toe. So fortunately, I found the foot. Otherwise, I'd have been a bit stuck. Anyway, finished these. The yarn is King Cole Zigzag in Cocoa. The contrast colour is one of my own. It is Caramel, I think. I had some leftovers or some, it was a mini, I think. Anyway, 20, yes it was a 20 gram mini from one of the autumn boxes I did last year, mystery autumn boxes. 20 grams was enough to do 2 afterthought heels and 2 toes, and I've got a little tiny bit left that's gone into a jar for something I will show you in a minute. Anyway, the sting in the tail was that Dave saw these hanging up, kind of blocking. These blockers aren't very suitable. I've pulled them wider, but you can see the leg is still quite baggy on there. And he went, he knew he was getting these socks. He'd seen the yarn. He went, oh, could I have a hat in that yarn? And of course, having knit the socks, I've only got a little over 40 grams left. So I've had to order some yarn. And it's free postage, so I could have just ordered this ball, couldn't I? But I thought it might be lonely, so I've ordered 2 friends to come with it. One is, they're all King Cole zigzag. One is a pink, I think it's called Rose. And it's kind of a variegated pink. I think I might make myself a hat out of. And the other one is Mayfly or Mayfair, and it looks like it's black and white. But anyway, they should be here. You'll see them next week, no doubt. But that's the only yarn I've ordered this year. It is only the 6th of February as I'm recording this, so that's not really very impressive, is it? No. And that is, of course, not counting the monthly sock club that I signed up for before I made my vow not to buy any yarn. It's not a resolution, it's just a something I'm trying to do. Anyway, finished socks. He's very pleased with them, and he can have them now. I finished them Friday, I think. I wouldn't let him have them till you'd seen them. Okay. I've cast on a couple of things. Because I'd finished the Musselburgh that I was knitting in my gradient yarn, and because I wanted some knitting to take with me on Sunday, I don't like to leave the house without knitting. It's like some kind of safety blanket. Because what I did was I walked, this is going to mean nothing to anybody who doesn't know Taunton. I walked along the shops on East Street, in and out the shops. I went to TK Maxx, saw a lovely bag, really nice Kipling bag. I like Kipling bags. It was made of recycled material. It was greens. I really liked it. And I looked at the price tag, and it was, well, £30 essentially, $29.99, and I thought, I don't like it that much. There was nothing else in TK Maxx I liked. Then I went into WH Smith's, which is, if you're not in this country, it's a stationer's. In America, you call TK Maxx something else. TJ Maxx, I think. Yeah, WH Smith's is a stationery shop. It sells books, magazines, stationery. That was very disappointing because apparently in the 4 years since I went in there last time, it has become a post office more than a Smith's, and there's very little in there. But I went and I had a look at the knitting magazines just for habit. Didn't buy any. Then I went into the Works. The Works is a discount, it's like a discount bookshop, but it also sells stationery bits and jigsaw puzzles and a little bit of craft stuff. Had a look at their wool. Reminded myself I didn't need any wool. They had a nice green, but I reminded myself I did not need any wool. Then I went into a shop that sells shoes and boots and trainers. Didn't buy anything in there either. Saw some shoes that were like Dr. Martens, that I really liked the look of, but I had trainers on and socks, and, well, I mean, socks doesn't matter. I don't know why I said that. That's not relevant. But I couldn't, I was starting to stiffen up by then and getting really tired. My walking muscles were getting very tired, and I didn't think I could get down and undo my trainer and try on a shoe and then get my trainer back on and do the lace up. So I didn't bother and try them on. But next time I go, perhaps I'll have another look in there. And then I wandered along to the Wetherspoons, which is where I'd agreed to meet Dave and Ewan. I don't know if you have the Wetherspoons in other countries, but basically it's a pub chain that is also a cheapish restaurant. Basically everything is microwave, deep fried or grilled. So we met up there. I got there before them. I had a drink. I was very thirsty by then. Then we had some lunch. Ewan shot off to do whatever he was going to do. And Dave and I walked slowly back. He said, do you want me to get the car? I was like, no, I can walk back. And we stopped at Cafe Nero, which is a coffee chain like Starbucks and Costa. But it has the best coffee, in my humble opinion. And I asked for a mocha and a piece of cake, because it was nicer than having coffee and cake at the Wetherspoons. So we moved somewhere else to have our dessert. And Dave got it. I went and sat down. Dave got it. And I said to him, is that my coffee? Yes, he said. Okay. Well, he put sugar in his. I don't take sugar. And I thought, well, that's not a mocha, that's a cappuccino. Anyway, he got to the very end of his coffee and went, oh, look. Oh, they've put far too much coffee in this. It was ever so bitter, look. And there in the bottom of his cup was the chocolate syrup from my mocha. So he'd drunk my mocha and I'd had his cappuccino. But he was adamant that the mocha was his. He doesn't like mocha. I don't mind cappuccino, but their mochas I think are the nicest. So I was a bit disappointed that I didn't get my nice mocha. Never mind, next time. I've forgotten why I started telling you that whole story. Oh, because I cast something on to take with me. Yes, so I cast something on to take with me while I waited in Wetherspoons. And it had to be something small, obviously. I didn't want to cart around a blanket or something. So I cast on another Musselburgh. This one I think is for me. I think it's a bit too girly for the men in my life. Oop. I'm quite surprised at how the yarn is coming out, because in the ball, I suppose if I look at it closely now, I can see that it's slightly striped. But I thought it was just variegated. But you can probably see it is kind of striping. I think I got this on eBay ages and ages and ages ago. Someone was selling like a de-stash bundle. And the reason I say that is I wouldn't have bought this colour. It's not a colour. It's not a colour I particularly like, and I wouldn't have used it for socks. So I'm pretty sure it came from D-stash. I've got some other bits that I know came from that D-stash, so this is probably included. The label has seen better days. Well, there's stuff written inside, but it's all in German, so I've got no idea what it says. No idea. It's an opal ocean, and it's the usual 75% wool, 25% nylon. I don't know if the label was distressed to begin with, but it's quite distressed now, and it's called, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, but it translates to glittering lights. So I'm making myself another Musselburgh. This will be my second. And I do enjoy knitting a Musselburgh, as you know. Unfortunately though, I've now got to try and knit this quickly because the yarn for Dave's hat is coming and he wants another one of these. So I've got to try and crack through it. I'm trying to do an inch a morning. So So I've done, that's my marker for it. That's how much I did on it this morning, watching Yana and having my breakfast. So I might stay on track. But that wasn't the only thing I cast on. This also happened. I think I told you last week I'd seen MSC Makes was making a tiny little square, tiny squares, not tiny blanket. Join as you go blanket, and now so am I. Because of course I needed another blanket and I needed, you know, more projects. Though I think I'm still sitting at 35. I have finished a couple of things, cast a couple of things on. So I think I'm still sitting at 35. And that's including all the blankets. So I don't think that's too bad, really. I did block these. I won't be blocking it all. I just blocked them to show you so they would look pretty. I really like the colours. These two were from my January Mystery Mini Club, Mousewitch Yarns January Mystery Mini Club, and these two were from Yarn Unique's January Mystery Mini Club. So I've got a bowl with lots of little bits in. It takes about 1.25 grams per square. So there's plenty of potential for using up the teeny tiny squares. What I do now have, though, is a dilemma, because you may remember I started a fake Battenberg every week. Fake Battenberg blanket using C2C because I didn't know how to join as you go. But now I know how to join as you go. So do I continue with the C2C one? Or do I do it like this? I think I have kind of a half a plan to continue with it as a C2C and turn it into a scarf or a cowl. I don't know. It was just an idea that popped into my head. What else have I been knitting? Oh my lord. This border. I am exactly halfway. I put in a marker. And I stopped when I got there last night. This is the glittering snowscape shawl. Slow down, Mandy. I hope you can't hear my tummy rumbling. You can probably hear Ewan creaking about. I don't know what he's doing. Which is the Hyper Knit Along for 2023. I'm on the border. And as I say, this is exactly halfway. Are you ready? It just keeps coming. There is so much of it. So very, very much. And every evening when I'm knitting on it, Dave says to me, "Are you nearly finished yet?" Not by a long way, Mr. Davis. Not by a very, very long way. That is literally halfway. I cannot wait to get this off the needles. Partly because I'd like to wear it. I'm loving it. The colours of it. I'm loving the colours of it so much. Let me hold it up so you can see. And I can't wait to block it and have it be all drapey and lovely. But this border, losing the will to live, people. Losing the will to live. I thought I'd have quite a lot of yarn left over, but I don't think I'm going to have as much as I had imagined. I've also been carrying on with the brioche on my star blanket. I'm not going to show you that. I showed you some brioche last week. Now there's like twice as much of it, but it looks exactly the same. So there's no point showing you that. I will show you this though. This is a giant mitered square blanket that I'm making with the Birthstone collection. Houses Makes Birthstone collection. So this was January, this is Garnet, this was February, this is Amethyst. And I don't know if you can see, this was entirely coincidental, I didn't plan it like this, but in the Amethyst there are little red speckles that, actually if I do it there you might be able to see, that pick up the colour from the Garnet. Can you see that? I don't know if you can. Oh yes you can. So, put my mitered square in. Takes a little while. But I've done that one. I'm doing a mitered square blanket with the variegated ones, and with the tonals I'm knitting my favourite blanket by Kay Jones. And as you can see, I just literally put in a couple of rows on Sunday before we went out while I was waiting for everyone else to be ready. Not really much to show you there, is there? I think that's all the knitting I've been doing. Although this is crochet, but you know what I mean. The other thing I was going to tell you about is I have made a Make 9 list, and you can blame Amanda from Little Lycac for this. I was watching her video and she's done one, and she did ask me a couple of weeks ago was I doing one. I was like, no, I'm not going to bother. You've seen my not very short list. I'm not going to bother. I've got that folder, I'm just going to pick from there. And then I saw her Make 9 list and I thought I'd done my Make 9 list from last year. I'd gone through and I'd shown what I'd knit, and I'd finished 6. One is still in progress, the Star Flanket, and it was just the Aurora Cabin and the Flying Foxtail Wrap that I didn't finish. I pulled them down. And it was quite fun looking at what I'd planned to do last year and what I'd managed to get done. So, combined with the fact that I saw Amanda's Make 9 list and I'd enjoyed ticking off last year's, I thought I'm going to do one. So I've done one. Oh, there they are. My nose. Essentially, what I've done is picked these out of my not very short list. They're all patterns that I had already. I'm trying not to buy patterns this year. I have bought one for a hat. It's a knit along that starts, I think, on the 14th of February. I told you about that the other week, and I'm also, as far as possible, knitting from stash. If I really haven't got anything in stash that I can substitute, then I will either dye something up or buy something. But I'm trying to knit entirely from stash. So everything that's on my Make 9 list, I have both the pattern and the yarn for. There are 3 sweaters, 3 cowls and 3 shawls. That was completely coincidental. Anyway, this pattern I've had for a while. Somebody bought it for me and I can't remember who. If it was you, thank you, and I'm sorry I've not got round to it yet. It's called Dainty Lion and it's by Rebecca Mackenzie. Can you see it? Oh, I should take them out. They're Polly Pockets really, and then there won't be glare on it. What's put me off knitting it so far is it's a lacy yoke. Lace is not my favourite thing. It's a round yoke. We've already discussed my issue with round yokes. But I'm going to try doing what I was talking about earlier, knitting the lace in the next size down, because obviously it's going to block out, and seeing how I get on. So there's that one. The Kutar Tea, which I see I've spelt incorrectly on Instagram. This is by Surrey Nordland, and again this was a gift from my friend Lorraine from the future in Australia. I've got 2 yarns. These are both sport weight, and I've got 2 yarns. I've got a shocking pink, and I've got a very sedate dark grey. The pink is acrylic, the dark grey is wool. Might be wool nylon blend, I can't remember. Please excuse my tummy rumbling, I'm so sorry. I'm thinking I might do this in the pink, possibly with something held with it. I think, if I remember rightly, you can hold it with some fluff and do this in the dark grey, because that looks like something that might be a bit more dressy. Then there is Bean and Olive, and it's printed in black and white, but I'm sure most of you know what it looks like. It's got a zigzag, 2 zigzags, and between them are hearts. I'm going to knit that in some Highland Heathers, Starcraft Highland Heathers in Brose, which is kind of a creamy colour. And for the colour work, I'm choosing between, I've got some green or some marmalade. I'm leaning towards the marmalade. Again, they're both Starcraft Highland Heathers. So that's all the jumpers. Then there is this Multiverse by Renee Strauss. This is a brioche shawl. It's an entirely brioche shawl, and basically you start off with 100-gram skein. No, 200-gram skeins, one of each colour. I'm struggling to make that make sense to myself, but I hope you understand. And if you want it larger, you can just keep going. So, pretty sure I can find a couple of 100-gram skeins somewhere in here. I'm in a brioche mood at the moment. I'm enjoying the brioche on the star blanket. This is called Mina, and it's by the Mouse Army Mitten & Co. The picture isn't very good on the front, I don't think. This is another one. Oh, I think he's going for a run. Sorry. This is another one that you use 200-gram skeins. So you can do them in the same colour, or on the pattern she's used 2 different. There's sort of a variegated for the main body of the shawl, and then stripy for the border. It's got quite a large, wide border. This one I've been wanting to knit for a while because of the shape of it. It's shaped in a similar way to, it's like a cross between the Pagona and the Eyelet Burst. So I think it will sit nicely around you. So yeah, that's the second shawl. The third one I have knit before. This is Exordium by Rebecca Picot. I knit this a couple of years ago in Ducky Darling's yarns in Lamb Lotto and Brew. I can remember that because I love them so much. But I just don't wear it, and I don't know why I don't wear it. Probably because they're creams and browns, and I don't really have creams and browns in my wardrobe. But there's nothing to stop me wearing it with other colours. The Lamb Lotto has got speckles of orange and blue, green. There's all sorts of tiny speckles of different colours in it. So really I could wear it with anything. But I thought I'd knit another one. Maybe using colours I wear a bit more. So that's all the shawls, and then the cowls. This is Lumi by Justina Lokowska. And it's a tubular cowl. Half of it or a third of it is colour work, and then the rest is plain knitting. So I fancy doing a bit of colour work again. I bought this pattern a while ago. Might have been back when I was doing the Ukraine knit along. And I actually bought the wool for it back then. So I have definitely got the yarn. So that's that one. The cowls I'm probably going to leave till the summer, because my plan is to knit smaller things in the summer in case we get really hot weather again. I won't be casting any of these on until April, because our topping off mail ends on 31st of March, and then in April at some point there's a cast on party, so I'll only cast on when we get to the cast on party. Another partly colour work shawl. This is Forest Frenzy by Carly Perrin, who is Northwoods Knit Co. And again, it's a tubular cowl. You only need 2 colours. I know. That makes perfect sense. I think I know what yarn I'm going to use for this. I've got some beautiful blue with black and beigey neps in it that I got from Blue Fern Yarns at the Southern Wool Show. Started knitting some mitts in, I've pulled them down. It was another one of those. On the stocking stitch side, the yarn looked beautiful. On the cabling, you just couldn't see it well enough. So I'm going to use that, I think, and a black Cascade Heritage. So that'll go with pretty much everything I wear. And finally, the Birthstone Cowl by Dana Ray Makes. Now, this is the only one that I don't have the yarn for, because I'm going to knit it with my Birthstone colour from my Year of Yarn, which isn't called the Year of Yarn this year, it's called the Birthstone Collection. Are you following this? I'm not even sure I am. So that's not until October, but I might knit it before October, so I've got it ready to wear in my birthday month. Very handily, and I didn't realise this until I pulled it out this morning. There's a birthstone chart on the back. Here it's got, for October, it's got pink. I'm going with opal. I know some birthstone charts say pink tourmaline, I think it is, or rose quartz. I like opal. I love opals. I love the fact that they're supposed to be unlucky for anyone to wear unless you were born in October. So they make them kind of exclusive to us. So I'm going with opal. I have a plan for some opal yarn. I'm thinking it will be quite pretty, but subtle enough that this, because there's some lace. There's lace and there's cabling, and it should be enough that this shows up nicely. So, well, I've just realised the pattern was knit up in Miss Bab's Yummy 3-ply sport yarn, and she's put colourways for each down below. Well, of course, I haven't got any of that. And I know Dana Ray Makes is based in Canada, so this may be a local Canadian dyer, which I have very little chance of getting. So anyway, I'm just trying to figure out which colour she's knit it in. I'd say that was a topaz, wouldn't you? I think that's November Old Gold. Probably says somewhere. Sorry, I started reading it. Put it down. Right, 3/4 of an hour. I think it's time I left you alone. Poppy has not reappeared. Sorry about that. She's been a bit off this week. She had to have some more medication, which means catching her and giving it to her, and so she's been very bad-tempered with everybody. She's back under the dining table, hiding, because she knows we can't get her under there. She's got too many exits and you just can't get under there to grab her. So she's finished her medication now. Hopefully she'll start being a bit more friendly. But yeah, she's very bad-tempered just at the moment. That's everything I have to tell you, I think. I cannot think of anything else. Shop was updated on Sunday. That's everything. Right, I'm going to go now, clear up this terrible mess that I've made and make a cup of coffee. So I'm going to leave you alone and I will see you next week. Bye guys.